It's 3 o'clock on Tuesday, February 6, 2024. I'd like to call this Board of Works meeting to order. City Council Chambers in Peru. First order of business is the reading and approving of the minutes from January 16th and January 23rd.
I make the motion that we waive the reading of the minutes and approve them as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Payment of claims, $440,000, $757,027.27. Any discussion on payment of claims?
Move to accept the payment of claims as presented.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Regular payroll, we have 2 payrolls listed. Is that correct, Kurt? One from the 26th, one from the 9th?
One is this Friday, and one was like the 26th of January.
Correct. The first payroll is $202,269.54. The second payroll is $204,958.41. Any discussion on regular payroll? If not, need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next order of business is crossing guard and city council pay in the amount of $6,551. Discussion? If not, need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Next order of business is fire and police pension, the amount of $90,598.60. Discussion?
Make the motion to approve the police pension payment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are not showing any old business, so we'll move into new business. We have a request by Peru Police Department Chief Feller to promote James Ullery and Jeremy Brindle to the rank of lieutenant and promote Colton Pittner to the rank of captain. Anything you want to present, Chief?
Thank you. Just to give you an update on what the requests are, why I'm requesting it. So Captain Bill Raber is retiring on Friday. So we've identified kind of his successor, which is Colton Pittner. Upon his retirement, we would ask to promote Colton to captain, would take effect on February 17th. Leaving open a lieutenant spot in the detectives division. So Josh Ullery would replace Colton effectively as that lieutenant. And then we were actually, we had more sergeants than what we were budgeted for. So we're promoting Jeremy Brindle to lieutenant as well in the back. He primarily works narcotics investigations, and if we're ever able, hopefully soon, to get to a point where we're fully staffed, then we would be looking to add detectives to the back that would fall under them in the rank structure. So my request would be for all 3 to be promoted and for that to take effect on February 17th, I believe.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Matt, the first 2, I understand they're replacing people in that position. And I didn't take the time to look at the current wage ordinance. And you said something about you had more sergeants than the wage ordinance, but you're actually promoting to lieutenant. And within this current 2024 wage ordinance, how many lieutenants do you have, and how many would that bring you?
We're actually, so we're only budgeted for 3 sergeants, and we currently have 4. So the move into lieutenant, I believe we have 6 budgeted lieutenant's positions, so we don't even have all of those filled at this point.
Okay.
Any more discussion? If not, I need a motion to approve the promotion of James Ullery, Jeremy Brindle, and Colton Pittner.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have a request by Peru Police Department Chief Feller for the Board of Works to approve a contract between the Peru Police Department and Bill Raber, Board of Works Resolution 2-2024. Chief?
As I mentioned before, Bill Raber is retiring on Friday. We really have not had a succession plan in place to take care of all of his job responsibilities. So we've made the decision to try to sign him into a contract that would begin on Saturday, February 10th, would run through the remainder of the year. He would continue to effectively do what job duties he has now so that we don't have a loss in services and have continuity of services. And in addition to that, his responsibility is to train Colton Pittner to take over that position by the end of this year. Colton is going to remain, even with his promotion, is going to remain in the detectives division, continue to work cases as a detective, while also being trained to take over Bill's job when this contract hopefully will end.
You say it's just till the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll have a contract employee, Peru Police Department, for 10 months,
You're
correct,
correct.
essentially?
Yes.
Okay. And then at the end of 10 months, he will no longer be a contract employee?
You're correct.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I have a couple of thoughts or questions. Matt, I took some time and I read some, and of course, like all of different opinions on criminal law, there are enough on both sides. My concern isn't the contract. My concern is on chain of custody and things like that, that we're going to throw a civilian in there because Bill would be considered a civilian after this Friday.
Yes.
And that also, besides the chain of custody and then some of the stuff, the NCIC, the IDEX kind of stuff, in his way to be privy to that. The contract really doesn't spell out those details, and I don't know that it needs to, but my concern is operational, and if you had a chance to kind of look at some case law or anything on that to see where different places fall in that category.
I have not looked at any case law, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I know that for many, many years that the Indiana State Police have had civilians who essentially are in charge of the evidence rooms at specific post locations, still within the guidelines of he would still answer to me or answer to Mike Benapal as a contract employee. So there's still a police officer who's overseeing that, would still have to follow the guidelines that we have for our evidence room. In addition, it's not as though we're hiring somebody off the street as a civilian to come in. I can't recall what the actual certification is that he has, but he has a certification that the department paid for at some point in time, where he's like essentially a certified evidence clerk, manager, or something
And
like
that's
that.
part of my question, and the one that I read talked about whether or not, as a non-sworn officer, whether or not he would still carry that or not. And so that's, I'm not contradicting the problem that you have. I'm just saying that I wonder if that should be something in the next, as this contract goes forward, and whether or not that's a guaranteed contract, and if there did become an obvious problem, what the city's out would be, whether it's with Bill or anybody else. If we brought in somebody from XYZ and then we found these concerns. So what would our out be? Because as I read through that, I didn't really see an out. It was more like a guaranteed contract for 10 months.
I believe, and Mr. Kern can answer this probably better than I can. I believe that there are a couple of options in there where we can terminate the contract effectively for no reason other than we want out of the contract, correct?
Right, and I am bringing that up here real quick, sorry. Yeah, termination.
And just to speak to your concern about, and I admittedly have not looked at any case law, but through some conversation with our duly elected prosecutor, he has zero issue with this at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a 45-day out on this. We can terminate it for any reason,
Okay.
with or without cause, just,
I guess my only suggestion or discussion would be that we verify whether some of his accreditations and I guess, again, then his access to some of the things that he currently has access within your department. You'll know the answers to that, and that we make sure as a civilian that he has those.
I know with the CGIS issues that civilians can continue to maintain that clearance, if you will,
Okay.
with the FBI. We just hired a new employee yesterday, and she has previously held CGIS. She is in the process of going through CGIS compliance now, so that should not theoretically be an issue for
The only part I was a little fuzzy on is because when he retires, he's no longer a
You're
law
correct.
enforcement. He's a
You are
clerk.
correct.
He's a clerical person.
You're correct. So there are going to be some things that he would not necessarily
Right.
have access to that
Yeah.
we would have to get access for him.
Right. And whether that would hinder, whether operational or court proceedings is my only question, is that I understand what you're doing, and I think that it's a movement towards what has to be done. I just wondered procedurally wise if you.
Right.
And my word of caution would be to take a look at that and make sure we're good on that.
from a criminal perspective,
Yes.
on that, there would not be any issue with a civilian having access to the evidence, so long as it's in the evidence log and who has that chain of custody. Looking at it from even a defense standpoint, I mean, because there's other agencies that have civilians that have access to that.
Correct.
That won't create an issue. Now our arrests are bad because we had a civilian that had access to the evidence.
And in terms of his access to, for example, BMV records or for criminal histories, while he may not himself be able to run those, he still has, with CGIS clearance, he still has access to be able to, he can still legally access that information.
Should have that information.
However, he could not physically request perhaps that information to be run. We would have to do that on his behalf, and then we could legally provide him with that information.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Am I able to ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Is the contract amount that when we approved that last night at the budget meeting, or the council meeting, does that include any benefits? Or is that something normally contracted employees, they have to provide their own?
He will have to provide his own. It's strictly for that monetary amount. He'll be a 1099 employee, or not, I'm sorry, 1099 contractor.
Just want to make sure the city
Correct.
was providing this. Thank you.
I'll make the motion if there's no further discussion that we accept the contract between Bill Rayburn and the Peru Police Department in his new advisory commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's passed. Last, we have on our new business a request from Sandy Chittum, representing the Chamber of Commerce, for the approval dates for the farmers market in 2024. Sandy is not here. We do have the request form. The farmers market starts on June 1st and runs through September 28th. Similar to what we've done in years past, requesting a closure of East 5th Street from North Broadway to Court Street. Hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with setup starting at 7:30 a.m. and tear down around 1 to 2 p.m. Barricades would be taken down each Saturday and stored in the alley adjacent to where the farmers market is currently held. So she is requesting that farmers market location to continue for 2024. Any discussion?
A question for the police and fire chief. Any concerns from your departments about blocking of that roadway for the entire, not the entire year, but on that date? Any concerns?
No, our concerns would be access to the museum, which we can access it from Broadway and go down Fifth from there. and also the brewery, we can come in from Wabash to there, so it will be okay.
And we have no issue with that. This has been ongoing for the last couple of years in that location. It's not been an issue no issues that I've heard.
Todd called before the meeting, said he wasn't going to be here today, but he would work with Sandy, and they worked all together. So Todd from the traffic department had no issues either.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'd like to have a motion to approve her request.
I move we accept the request form from the farmer's market for their 2024 date scheduled here as we have seen.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Request is granted. Communications, do we have any further communications from any of our department heads that are here today? Seeing none, I'll ask for a
I had a
motion.
question.
Yes, go
Somebody
ahead.
asked me, you didn't address the paving bids that were presented back on the 23rd. Nobody told me to put it on the agenda, so I don't know what your,
Okay, my plan was to get approval from the Board of Works to sign off on those today.
okay,
I'm sorry, didn't get it on the agenda.
then, no. You can add it to the agenda.
Can we go ahead and proceed with that?
Someone needs a motion.
I'll need a motion to suspend the rules and to consider for approval the paving contracts for the year 2024.
So we had two bids, one from E&B, $743,100.
Hang on.
Second.
You got to have a second
I'm
for that
sorry.
motion to add it,
Second.
and you got to vote for it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now you do it.
Got it. Thank you. So we have two bids, one from E&B, $743,115.53. One from Gaunt and Sons for $650,000, $726,15. Having looked at the bids, any discussion here on which one you would prefer?
I have a question for the clerk treasurer, possibly. On the bids, the matching grant, what's budgeted is $500,000, is the city's match of $1 million. And these bids are considerably under that.
Yes?
Once we accept this bid, does that bind us up, or are we still able to go
Ask
back and add to our number of streets to take full advantage of?
Don't believe so.
We won't be able to under the community crossings because the state has already approved our projects.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't
So-
add to it.
I mean, we can always spend.
So we've already given them the streets we're going to do.
Yes.
Okay. In the future, would it not be more prudent for us if we're going to get matching funds to maybe make our wish list bigger and then have to hone it down?
Well, when they prepared, from what I understand between Adam and Brian, when they prepared the list, they estimated the cost to be $900,000.
Okay.
But that was based on last year's oil prices, and they've come down, and so this is why you've got the reduction, because the cost of the paving materials went down.
But my question, and that's fine about this year, but my question is, as we look forward and we have X amount of money that the state's saying will match up to, in this case, $500,000, would we be more prudent to submit one for $1.3 million and then come the other way? Because what you're telling me is we can't say, okay, we'd like to add to this one now.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and I believe, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but won't the community crossings grant match up to like 1.5?
It'll match up to $1 million.
1 million, okay. So if we had $1 million budgeted for pavement, they'd match us $1 million, which,
They'll match
No,
up to
that-
$1 million.
but you have to submit that
Right,
initially.
right.
your
Has to be
request.
within your budget. Right.
Well,
And
for the
then,
project as well.
but our bid should be a little higher than what this one is in the future.
Well, you've got to get it approved by the state
Right.
Board of Accounts, DLGF, to make sure that you can afford to spend more than $500,000
Correct.
in the budget, when I put it in the budget.
Okay.
if you budgeted for more and it goes over, then the city would have to absorb that cost as well.
So we
We
can't.
can't move, I'm sorry.
We can't get this bid for $1.2 million and then say, okay, take this street off until we get down to that magic number?
Correct.
We cannot do that?
Right, the state approves the project, and
Okay.
then they'll give us, the $500,000, but we still have to finish the project. Because their money's not for this street, that street, it's for those projects in totality.
Yeah, we're just trying to find a way to maximize our dollars and get as many streets
As is every other
as
city in the
possible.
state.
Yeah. And, you know, it would appear that we've left $350,000 on the table, roughly, that may have been turned into paved streets. So we're just looking for a way to narrow that gap down to where we can get as many streets as possible every round.
when does this process normally, we're reacting to something that happened before this board. When does this process usually start?
Usually we start working on it in October.
Brian, can you come up and speak on the mic, please?
For either Brian or Kurt, when do we receive preliminarily, do we receive before city council budget time? Do we receive a criteria for what the state is going to match?
Well,
We put in our budget $500,000
right.
every year
But-
for streets.
But is that a random amount, or when do we get the criteria from the state, is how much they
The
will?
criteria, I mean, it comes out early, and it's been consistently the same. Sometimes they'll change the technical specs, but the amount they'll reimburse, I mean, it doesn't really change.
But that criteria is available to us prior to the city council's budget time in July and August? When I say us, I mean the city.
Well, budget time's a little later than that, but yes, it is. Generally speaking, yes.
Okay.
But the CCMG grant, correct me if I'm wrong, is a 50/50, up to $1 million.
Yes.
So that means the state kicks in $500,000, the city kicks in $500,000, and that's it.
Correct.
So that's what we set our budget at, $500,000, recognizing that the state will put in another $500,000. And then we, street department, goes out and decides which roads need to be repaved, and you actually come up with the estimates, correct?
Yes.
Based on material costs that you have information at the time.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's how we came up with that particular estimate. And then with the oil prices and the price of setup and tear down, the demobilization and mobilization of their equipment was off of what we estimated it would be. And that's why our numbers were so far off.
Okay.
And if you remember, last summer, oil prices were considerably higher than they are now. They kept falling all fall and now, January and February. So we're actually getting, we can do more because we'll have, if we do this, we'll have $175,000 left out of the city's budget to be able to do things.
Right.
In the city's budget, that's what I was asking. The city's budget, we can add more streets with that 175,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
The state will just not match it.
Yes, you
Correct.
just can't-
That's correct.
You can't
Streets
use the
or
state
alleys.
money.
Correct.
Right, it's already approved for paving.
Right.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid of Gaunt and Sons for $650,726.15. Been familiar with both of these companies, and I think both of them are credible, but I'm very comfortable with Gaunt and Son doing a very, very good job, and it saves $100,000 from the bid prices, so that'd be my motion to accept that bid.
Prior to my second, I just have one more question for Brian. You have dealt with both these folks,
Yes.
and from a city employee, head of the street department, do you have a feeling about either one?
I personally think that the the quality of work is higher on with Gaunt and Son.
Okay.
I know they are more user-friendly with the public, or they try to work around, make sure people aren't landlocked and are able still to get into their businesses and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was, sorry I didn't get that out earlier. I'll second Mr. Walker's motion to accept the bid of Gaunt and Son.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll go ahead and sign the contracts with the contract with Gaunt and Sons, $650,726.15, and get on their schedule. Is there any other business? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.